We walked for several blocks, enjoying the carry sidewalks, even though it was a partial blackout. Renee asked we might go just for a minute. It was the church of St. Severin. As we entered the quietness of the church, Renee walked up to the altar rail, knelt down, and bowed her head in prayer. At that moment, I know I had lost her, and I would never have a life with her. She was dedicated to a higher being. And as we knelt together at the altar, I resolved to never tell Renee of my desire to be with her all the time. In a way, I knew she knew my true feelings. It was exasperating expressing them to each other. In a little while, we would go to our separate journeys through life, knowing full well of our missed opportunity together. The church interior reminded me of Renee's parlor, with its same peacefulness and serenity, sanctuary to it all. After several minutes, Renee got up, took my hand, and we walked up the short aisle to the outdoors. It was dark outside, and the air had turned colder. Renee took my arm, turned and smiled at me. For the first time, I realized I had no longer thought she was a mysterious person. We walked further along Rue St. Jacques until we came upon a brick building emitting much music and laughter. The small sign over the basement entrance read Le Petit Operatoire. It was converted Latin headquarters, bistro in cramped basement with pleasant bar and recorded music. We took to a table near the bar and Renee ordered a pork sandwich and a carafe of wine. We sat there enjoying the music and the antics of the people patronizing the bar. It was good to see Renee smiling again, and I wondered how much longer I could endure this indecision in her life and return to a monastic existence. I knew for certain that she would, and it was only one of the few things I really sure becoming resolved. I knew I felt pangs of disappointment and frustration in learning about Renee's novatite, since I only came to grips with my own decisions. Once again, I had come to a brink of a new life, only to have it snatched away from me at the last moment. We would have been good for each other, but now it's all academic, and we would never know. We sat there for an hour or so, enjoying each other's company and the music. It was too crowded to dance. Besides, I did not feel up to it. I just wanted to be with Renee. It was to catch up on the last metro. I would have to soon leave and get to Renee's house. I was to catch up to the last metro to Wayne campus tonight. She declined the taxi ride and wanted to walk instead. She held my arm and I put my hand into hers, and we discussed what we'd do the next several days. She wanted to take me sightseeing, do some cooking for me, and start a full oil painting of me. I chuckled and added to her list, spend time at home just chatting. It sounded good to me, and once again, a sense of desolation crept into my thoughts. This would end shortly, as it always did, but this time it was more certain and undisputable. There would be no returning, and I would be afforded opportunities with Anne and Jean. These were the last days we would have to last a lifetime, and therefore would all recede to the place in the mind of the experiences becoming a memory. Will you be all right here alone? I asked as we reached a large oaken door. She smiled softly and said, of course, it's my home. I embraced and kissed her. I'll see you tomorrow. She was warm and receptive, and I did not want to leave. I kissed her again and sighed something in French. She murmured, go, you'll miss your train. And she hugged and kissed me tenderly. I held for a moment and then let her go. She quickly arms around me and hurried in the house. I held a taxi as we drove to the train station. A deep sense of isolation and despair came over me. I was back to where I started before entering the service, where just as Renee was certain to re-enter the religious order, I too, with the same certainty, would return home, providing I survived the next several months. And I picked up where I left off, to be a sole benefactor of the entire family, with everyone's wish and desires being foremost and mine being relegated to an insignificant person. Suddenly, there was nothing, no Renee, Ann, or Jean. I had destroyed all my bridges to a fuller life. All I had to look forward to were the next several days with Renee, and then total desolation and a sense of hopelessness. We had started out as the ray of hope and fulfillment, and had been rudely shattered into 1,000 pieces with no chance of recovery. I welcomed combat to lose myself in the depths of its discretion, in its death and discretion. I arrived at the hospital a little before sign-in time, and Lieutenant informed me that I had some mail. I took the letters to my day room, and the lights were off in the wards. There were 2 letters apiece from Ann and Jean, and one from home. I opened the one from home first, and it dated a little after Christmas. Mother mentioned that Steve was home for the holidays, and he was snowbound on a train coming from North Carolina. They had a nice Christmas, but it was cold and snowing. She meant that Luki was somewhere in the Pacific, and he could not make it home for the holidays. She mentioned in closing, getting a telegram from the War Department, assumed everything was all right, and she did not hear from me again. She wanted to know that when I was coming home, and she was tired. She was tired of starting up the furnace on the cold evenings. So your mother sent her a letter. When are you coming home? I'm tired of starting up the furnace on the cold evenings. That's what your mother said. There was frost on the windows mostly of the day. It was getting harder to find wood or coal for the furnace. She was also walking to work on the cold days when no one picked her up for work. Okay, that was the end of that chapter.
Yeah.
It's going to take me a little bit to find the other chapter.
No. All right.
Do my best to find